Hello, welcome back to the Veterans Lounge podcast. I am your host, Miguel Mata, and first things first, let me apologize for not putting out an episode in so long, but as it turns out, this teacher life does take up quite a bit of your time, and juggling first year teaching and this podcast has turned out to be a little bit more work than I initially expected, but the podcast still exists because helping veterans in their transitions, telling their stories is an important piece of work. That's something that I believe in, and we're gonna keep on trucking. We're gonna keep on trying to do this. That being said, today's episode, my guest is a gentleman by the name of Robert Simmons, Army veteran who did a few years back in the 80s, and his story is one that I think will resonate with quite a few veterans, even though it might sound a little far-fetched at first. I am not a journalist by any means of the word, not a journalist by any means of the word. And when Mr. Simmons approached me and asked me to share his story on the podcast, admittedly, I was a little reluctant because when I heard the details, I was like, this really isn't my my forte here. This isn't something that I don't think I feel qualified to do. But he hadn't been getting a lot of support, and that is something that really kind of spoke to me because unfortunately there are a lot of veterans who exist in this country who experience problems and challenges and need help, and their needs are not being met, whether it be because the system that exists to help them, it can't, it won't, for whatever reason. And Mr. Simmons is he's kind of fighting that battle right now. I leave it up to you, the listener or the viewer, to determine whether or not you believe any of the details that he shares. One reason that I'm sharing it, like I said, is because, veterans need to be heard. Veterans need to be heard, and I don't think enough of them are being heard. And in Mr. Simmons' case, I believe where there is smoke, there is fire. So even though the details of his story might sound a little far-fetched and hard to believe, I believe there's something there that needs to be heard. So all that being said, and without further ado, Mr. Robert Simmons, Army veteran. Hello, welcome back to the Veterans Lounge podcast. I am your host, Miguel Mata, once again. And today we're taking a telephone call. This is one of the few telephone interviews that I've done on any podcast format, but luckily I have another outstanding individual who's willing to share their story, another military veteran willing to share their story, Mr. Robert Simmons. Say hello, Robert.
Hello, everybody. I'm Robert Simmons. I'm a veteran on disability from Michigan.
It's nice to meet you, Robert. Thanks a lot for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, too.
So where are you at, Robert?
I'm in Swartz Creek, Michigan.
Is that where you're from originally?
Nope, I'm originally from White Lake, Michigan. I only moved and ended up 50 miles away from where I was raised.
Oh, okay. What's Michigan like now? Right about now, I know where I'm at in South Carolina. It is hot and humid. What's Michigan like?
It's hotter than we're normally used to, and the humidity's in the tropic level.
Wow. Wait, is it usually pretty humid up there? I mean, you got the Great Lakes up there. I'd imagine there'd be some humidity, yeah.
There's some humidity, but I mean, the last couple of years it's really been worse, and I got a feeling we're going to get hammered with snow this year.
That's pretty likely. I tell you what, I know a little bit about that snow up there. Not as much as you, of course, being originally from that area, but I spent quite a few years in North Dakota with North Dakota winters, and that snow up there is no joke.
Nope. I thought I had rough here in Michigan until I served up in Fort Drum, New York, and that's 10 times worse than Michigan.
Oh, for real? Wow. Well, like I said, I really appreciate you being on the podcast, Robert. And you know what? The way I like to start these things off is I like to learn a little bit about the veterans that I talk to. And if I remember right, you were in the Army, yeah?
Correct.
So when did you join? What was your reason for joining? What's the story behind your joining the service, if you don't mind me asking?
My dad was an Air Force veteran, and he ended up getting out when the family just got too big.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up under a little bit of military control, but I mean, the respect was there. Thought it was my right and honor to serve the country.
So you come from a family of veterans then?
My dad was a veteran. My grandfather, he was actually a Mason.
Oh, okay. Wow, interesting. That's pretty cool. But you joined the service because you felt it was your duty to serve.
Yeah, and I didn't think it was a bad idea to go be 20 years or 19 when I went in and, retire at the age of 39.
Yeah, it's not a bad deal. I can tell you that. And I'll be honest with you. And look, this is just my experience talking. Most of the people that I came across when I was in the service, doing their duty, quote unquote, wasn't really the driving force behind their joining the service. Most folks were trying to make ends meet,
Yep.
So it's really kind of refreshing to meet someone who joined because you felt like it was your duty to do so. You wanted to serve your country, like, legitimately.
Oh yeah, I watched a lot of my dad's old videos of like 8mm he shot out of the aircraft he was in and stuff like that growing up. And I wasn't able to get into the Air Force. They wanted me to play football, and I wanted to learn a trade, so I went in the Army.
That was the deciding factor behind your joining the Army over the Air Force?
Correct.
Oh, interesting. So what year did you join the Army?
I went in January of '87.
That's a little bit ago. It's a little bit ago.
Yep. Hey, I graduated in '86, but when I graduated, I had a bench press of 429, and I came out of high school pretty much a beast.
But I'm sure it seems like yesterday when you signed up.
Oh yeah.
What was your Army experience like? What'd you think?
I loved every minute of it until I got injured.
I remember you saying that earlier. You suffered the kind of injury that ended your career, correct?
Correct.
What kind of well, first of all, what did you do while you were in the service, and then what was the injury that you sustained?
I was the 31 Victor-10, a radio repair and mechanic, and I was working in a rat rig and sliding out a 210-pound radio at the time through my legs, and a guy dropped his other end, and I woke up in a hospital a few days later.
Holy Moses. What did they tell you happened? I mean, the guy dropped his end. Was it like a I'm having trouble visualizing this what the situation was.
It's like trying to hike a 210-pound football through your legs. So and when somebody drops their end, you sort of go forward really hard. Yeah.
And were you like not suspended, but were you up in the air at all? Like was this thing pretty high up off the ground?
No, it's basically used to be like a little truck with a camper on in the back of radios.
Interesting. Wow. So you're taking out this piece of equipment, 200 plus pound piece of equipment, through your legs, and
Well, yeah, because it used to be like just an aisleway getting in between all the radios,
right.
and you had to slide the radio out of the cradle to get it out. And when I slid out of the cradle, he dropped his end, and I woke up later on. So it pinched my nerves and just dropped me right out, blacked me out.
Wow. So this is a back injury you sustained?
Back and hip injury.
Wow.
The neck injury from hitting the cradle and bouncing off, that sort of has healed itself, but everything else I still deal with.
Wow. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. How long were you in? I mean, like, how much time did you put in?
Hey, I only was in 1 year and 3 months, and it sort of killed me. Yeah, because I wanted to retire, like I said, from the service.
Oh, man. Man, I'm sorry, dude. That is... The service wasn't willing to rehabilitate you at all? I mean, I'm curious, how did that whole thing play out?
I could have got sent to Walter Reed and it had surgery at the age of 20, but the one doctor told me if I did that, I would probably end up having other surgeries at the age of 40. At the age of 50, as I generated an age, it would be worse if I had the surgery at that time. So they put me on permanent profile to where they weren't going to allow me to re-enlist anyway. So
Right.
they offered me a medical discharge, and I went home.
Wow. And what were you thinking? What were you feeling, buddy?
Oh, fighting depression for a while, because you work most of your life and want something, and then when that's taken away because somebody didn't do their job, not your own, own actions put you in that position, it's sort of a bummer.
I bet. Yeah, I bet. Did just curious, the person that was on that job with you, did he say anything to you at all? Like, did he have a conversation?
I didn't even see him in the hospital when they got out of the field. I didn't even see him before I got discharged. I think he was avoiding me like the plague because he felt so bad.
Yeah. And you never spoke to him ever again?
I've never seen him face to face again.
Wow, man. So, you got to separate. Now you're out of the service. You went through an episode of dealing with depression. How long did that last, or are you still dealing with it?
Oh, every now and then it will still, show its ugly head when things aren't going my way. It brings back a lot of memories.
Did you happen to seek out any professional help for that, or is that something that you've just kind of been dealing with on your own?
I went to the VA for assistance, and they didn't like a few things I was talking about, and we had discussed that before, but they wanted to lock me up for 72 hours, calling me delusional and crazy.
Wait a minute. Let me back up just a little bit. Okay, so you're dealing with depression. You reached out to the VA for help?
Correct.
And then they wanted to lock you away for a period of time because they thought
put me in for a 72-hour hold and drug me as much as they could, I guess. I don't know.
Was it because you had suicidal ideations or something like that? Did they make was the claim that it was for your own good or something like that? Why? I'm kind of curious. What do you believe their reason for that?
They were trying to get my girlfriend at the time to say that she was afraid of me, and She wouldn't say that she was afraid of me. Said that she was afraid for me. And they wanted to put me into a 72-hour hold in Ann Arbor, Michigan. But when they put me in the locked room I was in the ER, literally the door fell off the hinge.
Wow. It seems like we're missing quite a few details here. Seems like we're missing quite a few details. Did you reach out to the VA for help, or did something happen where the VA had to get involved?
Oh no, I reached out to the VA for help. This was after about 4 different counseling sessions, and they wanted me to go down and speak with the counselors in Ann Arbor. So I drove from Flint, where I was seeing the counselors, and while I was driving, they were on the phone with my girlfriend, who had no legal right, no nothing, but they were trying to get her to say that she was scared of me.
Why do you suppose that was? What was the?
Because if your girlfriend or your wife or spouse or anybody says that they're scared of you, they have the legal right to hold you for 72 hours.
Why do you suppose they felt so compelled to hold you, to put you away for 72 hours? Why do you believe that?
It was when I got out of the service and I was working, probably trying to work for the first 10 years of being out of the service or more. I think I was put on full disability in 2008.
Okay.
But I got out in 88 and I had worked those years. And one of the years I worked, I lived in the UP up in Brimley, and I worked for a company called Roy Electric. And we were remodeling the courthouse annex up there. And when remodeling the courthouse annex, I was doing tear out, so I was pulling wires and pulling everything, and the floor was a mess. There was insulation all over the place, and I ended up picking up a container by accident with all my wire nuts and all my other containers. I took it home, and over the weekend, I had to do some work around the house, got into my tools, and noticed I had a container, and there was 3 vials of cyanide in it.
How did you know that it was cyanide?
It was labeled.
It was labeled?
I never even opened the container. It was labeled.
Did it have, was it an official label, or was it like a black and white label, like cyanide?
No, it was the old black and white label and partially faded.
Okay. So, just so that I got the details correct, you were doing, I guess, construction on a courthouse annex, and you're saying this container was among the other containers that were.
It got mixed in with my containers.
How do you suppose it mixed in? Did you put your containers in a space where that container just so happened to be? Is that what you're saying?
The containers were all over the floor. I was just kicking them around, shoving them around with my ladder as I was doing work down the line.
Okay, so was this an old rundown building, something that hadn't been used in a while?
That section of it was actually, they said the cyanide came from the dental department. I had to sign a notarized form at my employer the very next Monday stating if I tried to sue Chippewa County or the Chippewa County Courthouse because of the cyanide, I would be put in jail for stealing off of their property.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, hold on.
But the doctor that turned in the cyanide for me, 2 weeks later, his house was sold. He left his fiancée, and he got a job at the Cleveland Clinic.
So hold on, just a minute. Hold on. You find the cyanide. You find the cyanide among your own containers at home, right?
Correct.
What did you do with the cyanide when you found it?
I put it up into my garage, up onto the top shelf, away from my tools, and as far as away from my family as I could have it. And then a couple of days later, I contacted Dr. Tom Ham. He came up into my driveway. He took possession of it. He called Department of Homeland Security, because that's who I guess they call through the VA doctors, because he was my VA doctor at the time.
Why did you call him?
I didn't know who to get rid of anything like that from.
Oh, okay. So he was like, I got the cyanide. I don't know what to do with it. You called your doctor instead of calling your employer first. I'm trying to understand the logic.
My employer, they weren't available over the weekend. Dr. Tom Ham was.
Okay. All right. So your doctor came to mind. I was literally
working on his house, wiring it on the side. He was actually coming there to pay me money.
Oh, I see. So this was a regular visit? This was an expected visit? You didn't call him specifically for the cyanide. You were just expecting him because you had done some work for him.
Correct.
Okay, so while he was there paying you for the work that you had done for him.
Yep, and I asked him, how do I get rid of this? And he got on the phone with DHS right then and there.
Wow. And then what happened?
I talked to them on the phone, and he drove the cyanide to War Memorial Hospital up in Sault Ste. Marie. And like I said, 2 weeks later, his house was sold that wasn't even finished wiring. And he had a job at the Cleveland Clinic, and he walked away from his fiancée.
I'm kind of curious why that detail is relevant. Why are you sharing that?
Because there is a witness up there that knows. I know her name, and different things. That knows that the cyanide actually happened. Because
what's the connection between the cyanide and his moving?
He was working underneath another doctor. He didn't even have his own practice or whatever going on the east side. He was in Kinchlow Outreach Clinic, working underneath another doctor, Dr. Stallman, out of Iron Mountain. And to go from not being a full doctor at your center to being a doctor at Cleveland Clinic after the cyanide was turned in is sort of a no-brainer to me.
I'm having difficult making the connection. So can you be a little bit more specific as to what the connection is?
He got paid off and was basically got a six-figure or more job at the Cleveland Clinic for turning in the cyanide.
Why do you think he got paid off for turning in the cyanide?
Because he had no plans of even leaving the Eastern UP. He was just up there, and like I said, he was engaged, going to be married, and settling down. He was building a new house.
Who paid him off? Who do you believe paid him off for turning in the cyanide?
Either the DHS or the Veterans Administration.
Because they're trying to cover up what exactly?
That the cyanide was even found.
Ah, okay. And what if the cyanide was in this old courthouse, right? You're saying is your claim that the Department of Homeland Security or the VA was trying to cover up that cyanide was found, period, in the public?
Correct. Yep, yeah, Dr. Tom Hanks put in personal notes that I was delusional about cyanide. That's why my therapist wanted me to do a 72-hour lockdown, because he falsified medical records and benefited from it all.
Oh, okay. I think I see the connection now. So let me just see if I understand the logic or what exactly you believe happened. So you find this cyanide as part of this construction job. Your doctor gets involved just by chance, right? Just by chance. And you give it to him because, I mean, he's a doctor. He should know what to do with that stuff, right? He turns it into whoever he turns it into. Department of Homeland Security turns it into.
War Memorial Hospital up in Sault Ste. Marie is where it was taken. I don't know where it went from there.
Okay.
I don't even know if they looked for any more.
He takes it to War Memorial Hospital, and what you believe happened is, in order to cover up the fact that any cyanide was found in the public, he was paid a sum of money, which he was able to move with and find another job with, and at the same time, he falsified your medical records, claiming that you were delusional about something about cyanide. And then when you reached out, just to bring it all the way back where we got started from, when you reached out to the VA to help you with your depression, I'm guessing they found these falsified documents. I'm gonna say supposed, because I don't know the truth here.
Right.
They found the supposed falsified medical records you're claiming exist, and they put together that you were delusional. That's how they came up with this delusional, diagnosis of delusion.
Correct.
So
that's why Anna, my therapist in Flint, she wanted to do a 72-hour lockdown.
So she sent you to another hospital, and on the way, they were trying to build a case against you.
Yes. But my girlfriend said she wasn't scared of me, she was scared for me.
Right.
But I stayed in the locked room in Ann Arbor for over 2.5 hours, even after the door fell off. I never even had a therapist talk to me. They were on the phone talking to my girlfriend, trying to get her to say that she was scared of me. For 2.5 hours, I never seen anybody, but yet I went down there as an emergency.
And this was the emergency room in the VA hospital in Ann Arbor, Michigan?
Correct.
So you're in the hospital. Did you spend the whole 72 hours in the hospital?
No, I ended up walking out because they wanted to lock me up for 72 hours, but I left because I drove myself there under their request.
And you had no idea that their intent was to lock you up?
No. No, I found that out at the end when they finally came and talked to me, because there are tethers that they say that they put on your wrist and that to keep track of you in the hospital. I had one of those on and I ripped it off. When I finally ripped that tether off is when therapist finally came to talk to me, but I had yet been in there for, like I said, 2.5 hours, and I had watched these two women of therapists talk to almost everyone else in that ER except for me.
Let me ask you, if you don't mind me asking, outside of this supposed delusion diagnosis, and you're and a parent, you're pretty open about having dealt with and currently even still, dealing with depression, being someone who's depressed. Do you have a history of mental health issues?
No. No, I never really had any sort of history until after being in the service.
Interesting.
And that's them putting in their delusional.
And you know that they were trying to build a case against you because I'm guessing your girlfriend told you that they had called her?
Oh yeah, they called her when I was driving down there, said that I was all irate on the phone and this and that, and they never called me when I was driving down there. They were lying to her point blank to try to get her to say that she was afraid of me.
What? Just out of curiosity, what year was that?
5 years ago now. For the therapist.
5 years ago for the incident where they wanted to hold you for 72 hours by force or make a case against you.
Correct.
That was 5 years ago?
Yep, for being delusional.
5 years ago would put us at 2016. 2016 is...
Yep, and I turned down in the cyanide around 2010, I think it was.
I was kind of thinking about like the time frame here, the timeline. There's about 20 years between the time that you got out of the service till this incident with the cyanide. There's about 20
Correct.
years. What did you do in that 20 years? What had you done?
I was working and trying to support my family in Brimley, Michigan up there.
Yeah. No run-ins with the law or anything like that time?
Nope, not a thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, you definitely got a fascinating story.
Well, the thing is I can give names for people to call that would, reaffirm the story.
Yeah, they can confirm all your allegations there.
Yeah, I mean, Wendy Jamrose was Dr. Tom Ham's fiance at the time that it happened, and she's a nurse. Was a nurse practitioner at Bay Mills Medical Center up in the UP, and I don't know if she's still there or not. I really wish I would have turned it in through her.
Yeah.
She's a lot better person than my VA doctors have been.
And what was your doctor one more time?
My doctor's name is Dr. Thomas R. Ham, and he worked underneath Dr. Timothy Stallman from Iron Mountain.
Let me ask you this, since it came up. Was there a case made against you? Did you have to go to court for...
No, only thing I signed was that job, or the paperwork to saying that the city of Sault Ste. Marie would put me in jail for stealing off their property if I ever went to sue about the cyanide.
Okay.
Hey, that's somewhere in city records. They wouldn't even give me a copy of it. They have treated me like garbage for doing the right thing for possibly saving millions of lives.
Let me ask you this: because you brought it up, there was at some point the claim was made that you were trying to kill your family with the cyanide.
Yep, that was in the interrogatories of my divorce.
Okay, I see. Okay.
It
made against you that you were never charged for.
No.
Yeah.
No, I was never charged. No police involvement with the cyanide. It went from my driveway to War Memorial Hospital in the Sault Ste. Marie. My issue with turning it in was Dr. Tom Hamp and the falsifying of medical records and the abuse that I've suffered since then.
I guess that your trust in the VA near you is gone.
I have talked to other veterans that have literally left the state of Michigan because of the medical service that we get. Probably a lot of them out there. If you put a feeler out, you'd probably get thousands of people responding. They say on average right now there's 1 to 2 veterans moving out of Michigan daily.
Because of the care that they're getting.
Yep.
Medical care.
Yep, yeah, but some guys say they get awesome care, but they don't have as many issues as some of the others.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen guys in Ann Arbor crying in their wheelchair because we're having to fight for their benefits to get help when they were wheelchair bound.
Yeah. Robert, I appreciate you being on the podcast today and sharing so much of your story. I am going to try and piece together something that does your story justice. We're going to put it out there.
That would be great, sir.
I will put it out there, and then we will see what happens. What is the message, Robert? What's the message that you want to get out?
I want to get out the story and the message of how veterans are actually being treated, not what you see in the media to where, oh, we're all coddled and this and that. No, we're not. We are medically abused. We are sometimes even physically abused. It's the treatment and medical treatment that we receive is a joke, especially even for our depressed, our therapists that we're supposed to go to. They don't take in the veteran story or actually listen. They try to tell you what happened and try to tell you what you can talk about. You know, that's not getting the individual story or anything out to help them that they have going on in their mind.
Right. They try to tell you what's wrong with you.
Yes, exactly. You know, and if you go in there and you complain about, say you have an injured knee, and, oh, heaven forbid, your blood came up a little high on its A1C, you better be slammed with freaking diabetes medicine and everything else. Who cares if you had a bag of freaking candy within the last month?
Yeah.
You know, or they drank some alcohol that raised your blood sugar, anything. They don't actually look at the root problem. They try to tell you what your problem is.
Right.
And everybody's problem is different, and they try to lump us all into, we're all in uniform, and we should all act the same way, same everything still. No. Everybody's their own individual. Some medicines work for some people, some don't.
Yeah.
You know, and if you don't treat the individual, you're not getting treatment.
I can't imagine the level of frustration that you must be dealing with on a daily basis even. And I can't, at this point, from where I am, all I can do is wish you luck, buddy. So, Robert, I really appreciate you spending some time with me, and I really appreciate you sharing your story. I'm going to try to do something that does your story justice. I'm going to try to put together an episode that does your story justice. But more than anything, I appreciate you being on the podcast.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, sir.
So yeah, this has been the Veterans Lounge podcast. Your host once again, Miguel Mata. My guest today has been Robert Simmons, and he's shared with us a pretty fantastic story, and I think a story that is really relevant in today's veteran experience, especially when it involves the veteran affairs, right? The hospital veteran affairs. We'll do the best that we can, Robert. We'll get your story out, okay?
Okay, thank you, sir. You have a great evening.
I'd like to thank Robert Simmons for taking the time to reach out to the Veterans Lounge podcast and sharing his story with us. Like I said, the details are a little can be a little bit tough to digest, but I believe there's something there that needs to be heard, which is he's someone who needs help. He's someone who needs help. whether it be, what kind of help is I can't say, but I know that he needs help, and I believe that he's not getting the kind of help that he needs. And he's not the only one. He's not the only one in the veteran community whose needs need to be taken seriously. And I don't think there are enough veterans in this country whose needs are being taken seriously. I think there are people in places who believe that they are doing the best that they can, but the best that they can is founded in something that does not, it's founded in something that has nothing to do with the person or the veteran that they are trying to treat. So that is the primary reason why I felt compelled to share this story. As far-fetched as the details might sound, I believe that there is something there that needs to be taken away from Robert Simmons' story. And it could be the truth. All of it could be true. Who knows? Who knows? We're only getting one side of the story. And I believe I made that point clear all throughout the interview. I tried to be as much of a skeptic as I could. I tried to ask lots of questions. And I believe that I personally believe that I did a good job of that. All that being said, I still believe that Mr. Simmons still needs to be heard, and he still needs to be taken seriously. So somebody out there who may be listening to this or watching this on YouTube, maybe you can get in touch with him and offer some help. Offer your professional help if you can. I'm not a reporter, I'm not a journalist, I'm just someone who's trying to share the stories of other veterans, their experiences, their challenges, and hopefully getting those stories out into the world will end up helping them or help somebody else along the way. So, thank you, Mr. Robert Simmons, for reaching out. I hope this helps you in some way, shape, or form. I hope your story helps someone else who might be out there. But thank you nonetheless. I hope I was able to help. This has been the Veterans Lounge Podcast. I am your host, Miguel Mata. If you liked this episode, do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode, especially if you're watching on YouTube, right? Like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to comment. Always looking for feedback and constructive criticism. But as I always say, if you're someone who's got to be negative and somebody who's got to say something negative, whatever. I'm a big boy. I can take it. If you're listening to this in podcast form, please subscribe and share it there as well. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family members who are veterans. Encourage them to get in touch with me and share their story if they have one. And guess what? Newsflash, every veteran has a story. Everyone has a story. Period, but especially our veterans. They all have stories to tell, and we all have something that we can learn from them. You folks, take care, take it easy. Sorry it took so long to get this episode out. God bless. If you would like to be a guest on the Veterans Lounge podcast, go to veteransnexus.org/podcast to learn how. The Veterans Lounge podcast is a project produced in association with the Veterans Nexus Foundation, where they put veterans first and provide opportunities for vets to meet their higher education goals and also find employment as they transition back into civilian life. If you'd like to learn more about Veterans Nexus, visit veteransnexus.org.